Hi, my name's Stephen Kirsting, and on this episode of Your Shot Done My Way, we have an image submitted by Karen of her mother, who's 90 years old and looking great. And there's a few things Karen would like to address with this image. First thing I want to look at is camera settings, and we have 1/50th of a second at f1.8. ISO 1600, 50 millimeter. Okay, so f1.8 for blurring the background, going for that Christmas light type bokeh effect in the back. And in order to get 1/50th of a second for a 50 millimeter lens, about the minimum, ISO 1600, because that's what was necessary. Looking at this image close, and it looks to me like the f1.8 shallow depth of field is just behind where you optimally want it to be. The eyes are sharp, sharp enough certainly, but if we look at the hairline back here, I do believe the sharpest point is just behind the eyes instead of where you want it, ideally on the eyes. And that's just the penalty of using a really wide aperture. In this case, f2, 2.8 wouldn't have made the background that much less out of focus. Might have been worth trying to get the eyebrows in focus and eyelashes. Just a little more depth of field might have been worth the trade-off with the ISO. There's a little bit of noise in here, a little bit of luminance noise. We could take care of some of that real quick. And we could even try adding some color noise reduction that's already on there. But really, for print or any reasonable display size, that amount of noise is not going to be a problem. Now we have some skin spots we'd like to address, and bags heavier than they should be. A little bit of a bad hair day. And we could try to work on some of that stuff here in Lightroom, but really, there's really not a good solution in Lightroom. We could use the spot healing brush in heal mode. We could paint over that area and kind of address it. But if we look closely, it transfers skin texture to that area. We could use the healing brush in soften skin mode and kind of take out some texture, but really that just kind of turns everything into mush. So, would not be my choice to do this in Lightroom. You could, with a gentle hand, address a lot of this stuff here in Lightroom. Kind of knock some of this down. You could address some of the color issues with hue, saturation, lightness. Maybe get rid of some of the red. Where is my, there we go. We could probably try to get rid of some of the red. Use the target picker. Saying orange for these areas. Try to get rid of some of that. But it's going to affect the whole image unless we just selectively with a brush take out saturation. Here we can take out the saturation, which would just turn it gray. So that's not a great choice either. So while the image could be improved in Lightroom, it's not the right tool for this. So we're going to go and use Photoshop for these edits. So Command E will open it up in Photoshop. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the layer I'm going to go Command J, duplicate it, or you can just right click and duplicate layer. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to address some basic edits that I want to apply to every edit thereafter. So I'm going to deal with the hair, I'm going to deal with a little bit of color at this point. First thing I'm going to do is we're going to deal with the hair, and because I'm using the current version of Photoshop, I need to go in and turn off graphics acceleration using the processor because I want to use the liquify tool. All right, and we're going to start here, and we're going to kind of edit this hair. I'll push it in, pull it back out, and tame some of these flyaways a little bit. Continue, just push them back and forth until I can get them tamed. You can kind of fill this out a bit, shape her hair a little bit, push this in pretty good, pull it back out, and it just kind of mushes the edges in, tames these flyaways. Trying to stay in line with the background details so I don't have too much deterioration there. So I'm just pushing it back and forth. And I'll just address the bulk of that. I'm not going to try to make it perfect. There. We're going to go down here and we'll address this just a little bit. One thing we have to be careful with is making it look unnatural by getting rid of too much. Push that in. Get rid of some of those flyaways. All right, that's a good start. So I'll say OK. And so we've gone from there to there. So a little better hair day. And we can go ahead in here and I'll add a new layer. And I'm going to go and select the stamp tool, clone stamp. And I have my flow set to 30%. And I'm going to go and let's zoom in. I'm going to zoom in here. And we're going to use the stamp tool, clean up some of these areas. Current and below, so I'm going to select all layers. And we will go and clean up some of this. Now I'm using a pen, and I have my turn off shape dynamics, turn on transfer, and I have flow set to pen pressure. Okay, so that's what I want. Flow set to pen pressure. And then because flow set to pen pressure, I can turn that all the way up. And now my pen pressure will deal with that. If you're not using a pen, tablet, then you can use anything you want. I would just recommend frequently resampling. Let's see if we can get this turned down, size. I want it smaller, smaller, and a little harder. All right. And we're just going to sit here and sample and paint in. Why is that not laying over? Well, it is. For some reason, I'm getting some details I don't want. Can't get that to cover for some reason. I'll go over here, select that area, paint that in. Take away some of those flyaways, just hide them a little bit. And maybe kill some of this glow. Using a real soft pen, real soft flow, and I can recreate the edge of the blur there. Right, for some reason that's annoying me, so I'm gonna do it right there. I should do this, switch it to current. I'll hide it that way. For some reason, it is still there. No idea why I'm getting these issues. Select way over here, maybe. For some reason, I cannot get that to go away. It's driving me nuts. All right, let's see what else we got here. We got a little area over here. Ah, there we go. There's my problem. Mode, come on, get out of my way. Mode to normal. That'll help. And if I do Control Option click and drag up and down, I change my brush hardness. And if I go left and right, I change the diameter. If you're using a Windows machine, it's going to be Alt and right click with the mouse. So I'm just going to hide some of these flyaway hairs. Doing a lot of sampling. And let's see. Make the brush bigger. Zoom in a little bit. All right, let's see where we're at. Yeah, we'll deal with this a little bit up here. All right, that's probably good enough. And so we are at this point, we've gone from here to here. Okay, I'm going to make another copy of this layer. Command J. I'm going to move it to the top. And I'm going to add a layer mask, and I want the layer mask to be black. So Alt, click on the layer mask, fills it with black. I'm going to paint with a larger brush, and I'm going to mask. Let me switch my brush to white. I'm going to mask this area in. We're going to fill in the hair a little bit in this area. All right. I'm going to unconnect this. I'm going to grab the move tool, and I don't want to undo that. I don't want to move the, I'm going to move the hair into place. Something like that maybe. Go back to our mask. The brush, we're going to paint that back in. And let's see if we can do a transform. We'll try rotating. Oh, undo that, escape. Make sure I'm on the layer. Command T. You can rotate that, move it. Maybe something like that. Maybe I will drag it out, get a different size, rotate a little more. Along that line. And we'll apply that. We'll refine our masking. Over here, switch the brush. Maybe I'll change my brush size a little bit. Fill that in. A little bit right in there. A bit right in there. Switch the brush. I want to make it harder. By making it smaller, I make it harder. I want to paint that area back in. All right, let's see what it looks like without that. All right, I'm gonna go get rid of some of this stuff up here where it shouldn't have been. And we'll switch the brush, and we'll dim switch. There we go. Paint that in right there. All right, so we've now filled in the hair a little bit, and if we wanted to, we could duplicate that layer, Command J, and we could Then this time we'll move the mask and we'll fill in a little higher area there. Refine the mask. I don't like that so much. See what we've got going on here. And there somewhere maybe. And we'll work on that mask some more. Let's see what we've got going. Almost nothing. There we go. That's what I wanted. Whoa. That looks pretty good to me. I think we'll transform that a little bit. And T, actually I'm going to link them together. Escape, link them together first. Command T, rotate that. Move it up. And I think that looks pretty good. There's some stuff way up in the background back here. Doesn't really show up clearly, but it's there. All right, and then we're going to do some basic color edits for the under eyes. So I'm going to go down here to hue set, nope, selective color. We want selective color. And with the red channel selected, first thing I'm going to do is over here on the mask, I'm going to paint out a section right here. Because what I wanted to do is I want to try to match that skin color. Alright, and we have CMY black, CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And the CMYK is subtractive color. It's the color of a surface for printing. And a surface is subtractive color because what we see is the light that the surface does not absorb. Since it's absorbing colors of light, it's called subtractive. We're used to thinking in RGB, which is additive color. It's light, and light adds together to make white, different spectrums to make white. So when you're working in CMY, like in your white balance settings in Lightroom are CMY, these edits are CMY. The opposite of CMY is RGB, so right over here is RGB. So if I reduce cyan, I'm going to add red. It's the opposite. If I reduce magenta, I'm going to add yellow. And I can just set those to zeros, back to zeros. And if I reduce yellows, I'm going to add blue. All right. So we have too much red. We want more yellow. So R, too much R, get rid of a little bit of red, adding a little bit of blue. Magenta, CMY, so that's green, add a little bit of green, and then I can add a bit of yellow. What I'm looking for is to get this color as close to that color as I can. So it actually looks like I don't want the magenta. Get rid of magenta. It looks like I've got an issue going on. Oh, that's the area. Okay, so we've gone way too far with this. I forgot to turn my graphics processor back on. Let me paint on that mask and get rid of this area. All right, so way too far there. Way too far there. And let's make sure I'm looking for is this color to match this color where I've got it masked off. And I think that looks pretty good at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and delete, Alt delete that layer mask. I should fill it with black. And then with my paintbrush, we're going to paint it back in under the eyes with a small soft brush. My hardness is set way down at 6. I'm going to paint this back in around the eyes, up in here. Get rid of that coloration and make the brush really large. Kind of deal with some of this up here. Lighten it up on the nose a little bit. We're just kind of removing some of that redness that was there before and adding some yellow. All right, so we went from there to there. Might be a little too yellow, so we can go ahead and take a little bit more yellow out and maybe get rid of some green. All right, there to there. And if that's not enough in some areas, let's make this brush smaller. Kind of go around there. Take a look at my mask here. It's pretty dense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the layer, which will make it even more. And that's too much, so I'm going to turn it down. And again, what I want to do is Alt, this time Command Delete, and I'm going to paint it in. The reason it's Command is because Command turns it the background color, Alt turns it to foreground colors. I changed my brush color, so therefore I changed which way I needed to shift. So just bring that up a little bit, just in those few areas where I didn't feel like I got enough adjustment the first time around. All right, so I'm going to combine all these layers from there to here. Command G to group them, and we're going to call this Basic Edits. Right. So at this point we've gone from, go ahead and reduce this so we can see all of it. Command 0. Fit it to size. We went from here to here at this point. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to take everything that is visible and I want to merge it to a new layer. Now to do that, I'm going to do Shift Option Command E. It takes everything that's visible and converts it to a new layer. All right. I could, of course, just take this group and Command J to duplicate it. And then I can right click on this group, find all the layers that are inside that group, down to here, and I could right click and say merge layers, and I end up with the same result as duplicating all the visible layers. All right, at this point, we now want to do some frequency separation. So I'm going to call this one frequency separation color. I'm going to put it in a group. Oops. Into a group. I'm going to call this one frequency separation detail. And I'm going to put that into a group because I expect to do more layers. I'm going to call this colors, color. I'm going to call this one detail. And I'm going to, first thing we're going to do is turn off the detail. We're going to come down to this color layer and we're going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And I'm looking for a diameter amount of blur that removes pretty much most of the detail and evens out the skin tones. So somewhere right around, I guess, right around 20 looks pretty good to me. All right, then I'm going to take the detail layer, turn it on, and we're going to go to image, apply image, and because this is a 16-bit TIFF, I need to select the color layer that we just blurred. I need to select invert. I need to select add for 16-bit. And 2 and 0 are the settings that should show up. And we'll say OK. And we'll change that mode to linear light. Now, we go ahead and group these all together. And we'll add those to a group. And we'll call that frequency separation. All right, so after doing that, I should have no difference between the image. I got something going on up here that I need to address. Something up there is not quite right. Brush that out. See if that works. No, kind of. Not sure what's going on there, where we created that issue. Well, we duplicated it with our frequency separation. So I'm just going to leave that till the end. Actually, let's delete that layer mask. I'll leave dealing with that to the end. But point is, this frequency separation, detail and color layers should look the same as the original image. So if I turn that off, it should look the same. But in reality, my detail is on that layer, and my color is on this layer. So we can turn everything below off at this point and just deal with these two layers, color and detail. All right, at this point, what we want to do what I want to do is deal with color first. So I'm going to turn off the detail, and I'm going to grab the lasso tool and zoom in a bit. That's a little bit much. And we're going to make sure we're on the color layer. And why is it doing that? Command Z. Let's go in here and turn on my graphics acceleration. All right, it's a little more what I expected. It's not. For some reason, that is not working. Oh, I'm on the eraser tool. Turn my pen upside down. That explains it. All right, I'm going to quickly make a selection here. And I have a feather of 10 pixels around it. Go to Filter, Blur, Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we're going to look for a setting that smooths that out. It looks like we don't want to overdo it. So we're going to start around, 12 pixels sounds good. We're going to apply that. If it wasn't enough, I can just redo the filter. I can go to Filter, and Gaussian Filter Blur is going to redo those last settings, or Command F does the same thing, or Control F. So I can just sit here and hit Command F till that kind of goes away. And I can draw another area to address. Just keep in mind, and just sit here and hit Command F. But keep in mind that there is the feather radius that's not really showing up with where I draw with the tool. All right, get rid of some of these color spots and see what else we might want to address with this. An area here. I'm just hitting Command F numerous times till it goes away. Smooths it out. Just kind of smoothing all this out over and over. Now, if you had a ton of time, it is arguable that a better method of doing this is a lot of very selective dodge and burn. But this is what I use most of the time. All right. And let's see where we're at as far as overall color goes. It looks like I can deal with this area a little more. I'll do a very large area. And maybe this spot here. And I think that's looking pretty good. Turn our details back on. And we fixed a lot of the skin color. Now, obviously, a lot of our blemishes came back. And that means they're in the detail layer. So maybe we don't want this detail as intense. So we could take this layer and reduce its opacity. And that's going to soften up all the details. But we don't want all the details softened. So I'm going to duplicate that layer. Turn that opacity up. I'm going to put a mask on it. Black mask. And we can paint in the details back where we want them. And I'm going to put a white mask on this one so I can remove some additional details from some areas. So I'm going to, starting on this one, painting in black, we're going to get rid of that spots there. Get rid of this one here. All right. Zoom in. We can lighten up this line. Lighten this up area a little bit. I'm not trying to get rid of them because that would just look wrong. Just relax them a little bit. All right. Get rid of a lot of that. Just kind of lighten up some of these lines. And remember, I'm just painting out the opacity of these skin textures. Not removing them, they're still there. Well, to an extent. And I'll lighten these up a bit. And we always have to be careful because there's a 90% chance that this is going to be overdone. All right, get rid of some of that there. All right, then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to paint in the details back to where we want them. So let's see, we'll bring the eyes back. Bring the eyebrows back. Bring the mouth back. And just the edge of the nose a little bit. We'll zoom out. Get a larger brush here. We'll deal with some of these hair details. Bring some detail back into the hair. Restore that back to where it was. Bring that back. And just kind of frame the face. Bring back the texture in the shirt. Back to full. All right, looking a little fake in this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this mask and I'm going to reduce its opacity. Don't want it to be quite as plasticky as that. All right. Now we're going to go down here to the color layer, and I'm going to add a new layer to that group. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make my brush smaller. And I'm going to select colors nearby. And we're just going to kind of fill in these dark areas with some color. Make sure we sample nearby, sample frequently. And try not to go crazy with it as such. Right, I'm going to use this area here, we're going to lighten that up a little bit. Right, see what it looks like. All right, we've lightened those up quite a bit. Let's see where we're at here. Layer. I want to take out a little bit more there. Just right here, bring that down a little bit. Not trying to get rid of everything, just making it a little more pleasant. Select here, pick an area nearby. Just put some color back in here. Bring up the color just a bit. See what we're looking at. All right, not looking too bad. Let's go ahead and tone that down a little bit. Select nearby. Tone that down a little bit. I think I'm gonna, let's see where that is. I'll try getting rid of a little bit of this right in here. Soften that up a little bit. All right, and see where we're at this point. So we've gone from here to here now. And I think the last thing I'm going to do is add a couple curves. 2 curved layers. This one I'm going to make brighter. This one I'm going to make darker. And we're going to use apply image again. Image, apply image. This time we want merged. We don't want inverted, because what I want to do is dodge the highlights. I want them lighter. So you can see over here in my mask that it's selecting the highlight areas. The lighter colored areas are the highlights. So that's what we want. Let's see, okay. We're going to do the same with this one. I'm going to go image, apply image, but this time I want to burn the shadows. So we're going to invert it so it selects the shadow areas, darker areas. And so this is what my masks look like now. Pretty cool. All right, now I need to put these into individual groups. Put a mask on it, black mask, so Alt click. Put this one in a group. G, again a black mask. We'll call this highlights, dodge, highlights. Not dig, dodge. And we'll call this one burn shadows. And we'll put these all in a group. We'll call that group Dodge and Burn. All right, now we're just going to bring in our shadows and highlights where we want them. This is the highlights layer, so I'm going to paint on that, and using a larger, softer brush, we're going to basically apply some makeup. Go in here, we'll highlight the cheeks, a little bit on the chin, down the nose, and then we'll get a larger brush and we'll do forehead, and then we'll take here with the burn, go in and darken along the sides here, cheeks in, and let's bring in some to the hair. It's just picking out the darker spots and making them darker. We can do the same with the highlights. Just bring a little more life to the hair. Let's get that out of my way. See what we're working with. And I'm going to make this smaller. And we're going to liven up the eyes a little bit. Alright, and let's find our other frequency separation color. And let's add a little bit of makeup to this. Take our brush, we'll select pink color like this, make our brush large, very low opacity, very light brush touch. I'm gonna just add a little color, and maybe I need to mask some of that back out. Right in there, right in there. And I think I should be done. I'm going to put all these into a group. Command G. And I'm going to call this Edits. The reason for that is almost always, 100% of the time, overdo things. So by doing it in layers like this, we can always go back through and turn individual parts down as we want, or refine them. Or we can take the entire layer of edits and turn it down to something that looks a little more realistic to us. I'm going to leave this set high at the moment. And we've gone from here to here. And like I said, you may find this is too much, doesn't look enough like your mom, in which case you can go through and turn some of these edits down, and I would guess probably the frequency separation and being the biggest culprit. In most cases, we could turn that down as a group or each individual component within the frequency separation. All right, I hope you have found this helpful. This has been, I guess good enough. I missed that little area along the top, and in order to fix that, I can just put a mask on this whole thing. And with my brush, I can just paint that out. Oop. Let's undo that. My brush smaller, fix some of this stuff. Yeah, fix that a little bit. Okay, there you have it. Before and after Karen's mom. Once again, my name is Stephen Kirsten. This has been Your Shot Done My Way, and I will see you next time.